Welcome to Bits and Pieces. Today's video is a weekend project, sort of cooking day. I made pie. Not something I would normally do on a weekday, but weekend day. It's kind of not a nice way to pass the time and get some nice food out of it. So this is the ingredients for most of the ingredients, shall we say, for the first pie crust. This was my sweet one. These came from an Old Settlers 1903 cookbook. We have, I forgot to double my flour. You will see that later in the video. But flour, sugar, milk, eggs, and baking powder. I also used butter. So this is a doubling of a recipe because I have a lot of apples that I received for free and I was trying to use up. And one of the two pies is going back to the person who gave me all the apples. So, like I said, I used the Settlement cookbook, and first you mix all the dry ingredients and then add in the bit of butter before adding the milk and egg, which I've already mixed together. As you see, I had to add some flour after the fact because I realized I had not doubled that. And then I just rolled it out on a floured board and then wrapped in plastic wrap and stuck in the fridge to chill while I worked on other things. So those other things consisted of starting the pie crust for the chicken pot pie that will be dinner. This one is a much simpler recipe with just the flour, butter, and salt, and a bit of cold water to as needed. Once again, this is just adding the dry ingredients, then butter cut into pieces before adding the liquid to get the right consistency. I will say the cookbook does not give a lot of precise directions on cooking of the pies. But once again, I floured on a surface and rolled the dough out before putting it in saran wrap and sticking it in the fridge. I will note that this is partially whole wheat flour just because I accidentally threw whole wheat into my canister. And then I use my KitchenAid to cut up apples. I'm putting them in water with a little bit of lemon juice to keep them from browning while I'm working on everything else. And I'm setting the unused bits of apple to go in the freezer for apple butter at a later time. I will say I love this KitchenAid attachment. It cores the apples so nicely and slices them. But it went really fast. This was a long project today. I put the apples into the pie crust and then sprinkled with a cinnamon sugar mixture, and then the top pie crust and went over it with an egg wash. And then I did a smaller pie to go to the neighbor who'd given me all the apples. I was real happy with how pretty these turned out. And the leftover crust was put into these little cinnamon apple rolls. They're just beautiful pies. And the apple cinnamon rolls were delicious, especially with a little bit of ice cream. Then it's the pot pie, and this is the things that I use. You can see my dough on the side. Cut up the onion, came from the garden, by the way. So I cut up the onion and celery and sauteed it in some bacon drippings that I've been working on, and cut up the chicken on there. And this is broth that I had in the freezer I'd made previously. So I'm just kind of letting it melt in the pan because I forgot to set it out to thaw ahead of time. Added some cornstarch, some of the power greens that I had, and canned vegetables. I normally would prefer frozen, but I was gifted these canned vegetables and needed to use them up. And this just used my iron skillet through the crust on top and with the egg wash, and used up some of the excess dough to make it pretty and stuck it in the oven. And that was really about it. And as you can see, the onion leaves that I chopped up So when we served the chicken pot pie, threw some of the chives on top to make it